Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a look at Albania. It's one of those European countries that maybe doesn't get talked about as much, but it's got this incredible story, you know? Ancient history mixed with some truly stunning nature.
It really does. We've been going through the material you sent over, the albaniahistory.txt document. And yeah, it paints a picture of a place where you can almost feel the ancient history around you, but also see this incredible scenery and a really resilient culture.
Exactly. I mean, just think about it. You could be exploring ruins from ancient Illyrian times, Roman times, and then, drive through these landscapes that go from gorgeous beaches to really dramatic mountains. And apparently a culture that's really welcoming too. It just sounds like it has so much for anyone interested in history or adventure or just, beautiful places.
Right. So our mission, let's say, for this deep dive using this text is to really pull out what makes Albania tick, give you a good sense of its history, and maybe highlight some of the key spots that make it, stand out today.
Okay, sounds good. Let's get right into it then. The source material kicks off way back, talking about ancient Illyria and how independent these Illyrian tribes were. What really jumps out from that early history?
Well, it's that independence theme, isn't
Yeah.
it? It seems to be there right from the very beginning. The text describes them as pretty fiercely determined to run their own show. And that feels like a thread that runs all the way through Albania's history, even through all the tough times.
And it definitely sounds like it was a crossroads. The Greeks, the Romans, the Ottomans, the text points out their influence. How did being in the middle of all that shape the country?
Yeah, its location in the Balkans, it was almost guaranteed to be a meeting point, maybe even a conflict zone for big powers.
Yeah.
And each one left its mark. You see in the buildings like Roman ruins right near Ottoman mosques.
Right.
And in traditions, maybe even bits of the language. It's not just a list of empires passing through. It's about how all those influences kind of layered on top of each other, creating something unique.
Then the text brings up Skanderbeg, 15th century, national hero, resisting the Ottomans. What made him such a huge figure? He really seems central to the Albanian story.
He absolutely is. Skanderbeg sort of embodies that early Illyrian independence, but on a massive scale. Pulling together different Albanian groups and holding off the Ottoman Empire, which was incredibly powerful for decades. That's a story of incredible courage.
Wow.
Yeah, against pretty huge odds. So he naturally became this powerful symbol for, Albanian identity.
But of course, the Ottomans did eventually rule for centuries, the text says. Then independence in 1912, but that was followed by, a lot of political chaos and then that long period of communist isolation. How does that more recent history connect to Albania emerging now?
That recent part is really key to understanding Albania today. That isolation under communism, it had a huge impact in lots of ways. So now, as Albania is opening up, reconnecting with Europe and the world, you get this feeling of a country really eager to share its story, its heritage, its landscapes.
Yeah, I can see that.
That isolation makes its current openness feel even more significant, maybe. It gives everything a slightly different flavor.
Right, okay. So with that historical backdrop, the source then points us towards specific places, starting with Tirana, the capital. Described as vibrant, a mix of old and new. What are the must-sees there, according to the text?
Well, the absolute center seems to be Skanderbeg Square. The text calls it the main hub where everything kind of connects. And right there is the National History Museum. Sounds like a good first stop to get the whole sweep of Albanian history from ancient times right up to the communist period.
Makes sense. And it also mentions the Edhem Bey Mosque, an example of Ottoman architecture, a visual reminder of that long historical period. But then, totally different, there's the Dashti Express cable car, going up Mount Dashti for views over the city. That sounds pretty cool. It kind of sums up that mix you were talking about, history right next to nature.
Exactly. Tirana seems to capture that perfectly. You've got the deep history, but also this modern energy, and then, boom, access to amazing natural scenery right there.
Okay, next up, Berat. Nicknamed the City of a Thousand Windows. UNESCO site. That name alone is fantastic. What's the story with Berat?
What's really special about Berat, the text emphasizes, is how incredibly well preserved the Ottoman architecture is. Those white houses climbing up the hills, windows looking out, that's where the nickname comes from. It looks amazing in pictures.
I bet.
But it's not just pretty. Berat Castle apparently has been lived in since the 4th century BC. People still live inside the walls today. That's kind of mind-blowing.
Wow, that adds a whole other layer. And inside the castle, the source mentions the Onufre National Museum. with 16th century icons. So a lot of artistic history there, too.
Definitely. And then there's the Mangalam Quarter mentioned, cobblestone streets, traditional houses. Sounds like you can really step back in time just walking around there.
Yeah, it sounds like a place where the past feels very, very present.
That's a good way to put it. Farad seems to offer that really direct connection to Albania's history.
Okay, then we have Gjirokastër, another UNESCO site described as a town frozen in time. Albania seems packed with these places. What makes Gjirokastër special?
It's similar to Berat in being famous for its Ottoman architecture, but Gjirokastër has these distinctive stone houses, giving it a different feel. And the castle there, Gjirokastër Castle, apparently looms over the whole town. That must have been quite a sight.
I can imagine.
And it has a military museum inside, which hints at, its strategic role over the years.
And the source brings up the Ethnological Museum, which is in Enver Hoxha's birthplace. That adds another layer, maybe a complex one, for understanding the country's more recent past. But even just exploring the narrow streets and markets is supposed to be, magical.
Yeah, Gjirokastër sounds like it really pulls you into its own world. The architecture, the castle, the museums, it all adds up to a really immersive feeling.
Okay, switching gears completely now. Ksamil and the Albanian Riviera. The source says, pretty boldly, some of Europe's most beautiful untouched beaches. Turquoise water. That sounds tempting. What's special about Kalçın?
Well, it's right near Butrint National Park, which is a big plus.
Yeah.
Suggests it's in a really nice natural setting. And yeah, the text raves about the crystal clear water, perfect for swimming, snorkeling. It definitely sounds like a beautiful coastal spot.
And it mentions the Ugara Path's two dramatic views over the Ionian Sea and mountains, so even getting around the Riviera sounds scenic. Plus, it nods to other towns like Durmi, Vlore, Hamara. So Smil's not the only place.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Looks like the Riviera offers quite a range, maybe some quiet beaches, some more lively towns, but all with that stunning coastal scenery as a backdrop.
Okay, then we get to Butrint itself, another UNESCO site. Ancient ruins, incredible beauty, big archaeological site, Greek and Roman roots. What kind of ruins are we talking about?
The text mentions a Roman theater, baths, a basilica, pretty substantial remains that show it was an important city back then. But what sounds really unique is the location. Yeah, it's near the coast, but set amongst greenery, wetlands. So it's this blend of really significant history and beautiful nature, all in one spot. Appeals to history buffs and nature lovers alike, I'd guess.
Sounds incredible. All right, finally, for the adventurous types. The Accursed Mountains, or Beshket Inamuna, described as rugged, wild, great for hiking, trekking, seeing remote villages, a totally different side of Albania again.
Absolutely. A real contrast to the coast, showing the country's geographic variety. The source mentions Theth as a key base for hikers. Waterfalls, clear rivers, big views. Sounds like proper mountain territory.
Yeah.
And also highlights the chance to see traditional mountain village life, which adds a whole cultural element to the adventure side of things.
Okay, so wrapping this up, looking back at the source material, Albania really does sound like this hidden gem in Europe, doesn't it? That mix the text talks about history, landscapes, hospitality, seems spot on.
Yeah, the sheer range is impressive. You go from the buzz of Tirana to the calm beaches of Ksamil and then up into those wild mountains, all in one relatively small country that's maybe still a bit off the beaten path for many.
It really gives you the sense that history isn't just in museums there, it's in the stones, in the landscape itself. And nature isn't just pretty background, it's a huge part of the whole experience.
Right. Which maybe leads to a final thought for you listening. When you uncover all these layers, the deep history, the stunning nature, in a country that's perhaps less famous than its neighbors, what does that suggest? What does it tell us about other corners of the world we might overlook? Maybe about the assumptions we make about where to travel and, what amazing things we might find if we look just a little bit differently. Something to chew on, perhaps.